Hello, welcome everyone to a very special episode of the More Magic podcast. We are recording live at Wintercon in Portland. So for everyone in the room, I talked to a lot of you ahead of time. Thank you for coming. But if you're not familiar, so this is a recording of a podcast I host, which is a fantasy book podcast where we talk about fantasy books. So each month we have one book club book where we discuss it in detail, which also aligns with the book club. We have an actual meetup in Portland where we meet once a month and talk about the book. And so we have an episode on that where we talk in detail. So there are a lot of spoilers, but definitely check that out. And then we also do special themed episodes, which is what this is. So tonight we are talking about fantasy books for hope. So if you are in the need of something to just leave you feeling good and hopeful, then this is for you, which is very different if you're just in the sword fighting one. Very different vibe. But so I have a special guest tonight. Meet AJ Peterson, author of Oblivion's Hymn, which we will talk about a little bit later. And for anyone who's a writer in the room, you also do editing as well. You help writers.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a freelance editor. You can find me on Instagram at dreamscape.editing if you're interested, or my book stuff is Cozy Writing Dragon.
Yeah, and you have a Substack, which is...
Yes, my newsletter is on Substack. It's called The Cozy Dragon's Lair, or you can probably find me through AJ Peterson on there too.
I think that's how I found you. Yeah. So, just search AJ Peterson.
I'm around.
On any of the internet.
In places.
Okay, awesome. So we wanted to just start with a quick question. So raise your hand. We won't call on you, so don't be like, oh, I don't want to talk. Raise your hand if you have ever read a book that helped you through a dark period in your life or an uncertain time. Yeah, so almost everyone, most of the people. So that's what we're talking about tonight. We want to share some of the books that helped us. So that way, if you are going through a period and you're just like, I really need to escape, or I need to just feel like things can be dark, but they can also get better. We have some recommendations for that. So we thought this was a great topic for fantasy because I think fantasy provides a really good lens for thinking about real world problems, but having a little bit of removal because it's not our actual world, depending on what you believe. I mean, maybe it is our actual world. Do you want to talk about some of the ways that fantasy provides hope?
Yeah. So I have been reading fantasy my whole life. It is my absolute favorite genre, and that's why I write it, specifically because I think it has this unique ability to provide hope, more so even than some contemporary things. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. I think even just from a super broad perspective, we escape into stories because we know most stories kind of follow a structure and we know that they have an ending. And I think that that's really helpful in a time where things just constantly seem to be bad. We know that this is self-contained, and usually, if not at the end of a book, then at the end of a series, there is triumph and healing and hope. And I think that's one of the reasons I like to read, just period. But for fantasy specifically, I think it gives us a lot of opportunity to explore perspectives that are different than ours. So we gain empathy for these characters who are in completely different worlds than ours, but often fantasy worlds take inspiration from real world cultures, or real world problems. And so there's just enough of that distance that you were talking about where you can kind of forget your existing biases and just get immersed into this story. And when you look back at this journey that these characters go on, even if that character is almost nothing like you, you still get to see a little piece of yourself in them somewhere. And I think that that's really cool.
Well, and even if, I mean, in some cases, it's not even a human.
Yeah. Exactly.
And so you're like getting to immerse in that different experience, which I think was another thing that you and I had talked about when we were kind of preparing for this, was that experience of like, I'm not the only one
Yes.
who went through this.
Yeah, having that like feeling of being seen, and even things that you didn't realize about yourself that you see put into words maybe for the first time, and you go, oh, and so you gain an understanding about maybe the person who wrote it or the world that this character is in, but also about yourself. And I think that's really, really special.
Yeah, I agree. I think another reason fantasy is perfect for uncertain times, or even just when you're going through a hard moment, is just it can also just be pure escapism. Like sometimes I just want to, we've talked about this in book club a lot, like sometimes I just want to have magic, and I just want to feel like maybe there is possibility that we can just wave a wand or go through a portal, or like just do something to change the reality currently.
Yeah, I'm mostly a like high or epic fantasy reader, but I do love low fantasy for that reason.
I'm definitely low fantasy.
Yeah, because it feels so possible. Like you could turn a corner and there could be a portal to another world there, or there's weird noises in the woods at night and maybe it's something different than just a wild animal. I think that what if that fantasy brings is really, it does something to your brain, where you're like, things that are impossible seem possible. And I think there's hope baked into that anytime that happens.
Yeah, because the hope doesn't feel impossible. It feels like maybe good things can happen, even if things aren't good in the moment.
Yeah.
And
but the reason that I really like high fantasy in particular is because of the creativity that you get to see. And I think there's an element of like human connection there that's really, really special. People, I think, are often intimidated by fantasy because it can be so out there. But humans have been telling stories, making up stories since the dawn of time, since we were people, about like things that we don't understand. And I think it's a really human thing to look at the world and go, what if? And to see the extent of all of our imaginations is one of my favorite things. Like not just the magic systems that people create, but the weird little creatures that populate a place, or aspects of our worlds that we wished were a little bit different. Getting to see those play out. I just putting all of these experiences that you don't get to have in real life, but like making them feel real. It's really cool.
Yeah. I mean, for a moment, it is real when you're reading it.
Yes,
it feels
the
real.
the best books do feel real.
Yeah. Yeah. Should we talk about some of the books?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So we categorize them, so that way it's not just us saying a bunch of books. So the first, I guess, category is just processing what feels impossible. So this is kind of like the Tolkien type books where, maybe there's this like epic war, and it's like how I always think about the quote, if you've read the books or even just seen the Lord of the Rings movies, where Sam is, I don't know exactly where it is, but there's like a part where he like is quoting and he's like, how can anyone go on? How can it get better when so much bad has happened? And that's kind of like the vibe of these books. So one of them I'll start with, I actually just read, is The Everlasting by Alex Harrow, which we read for our book club. And that one was really good if you are in the mood for something that is really, because have you read it?
I have not. It's on my TBR.
It just came out. So it came out like in November, I think, or October. But that one's really good if you're in the mood for something that has swords, because we just had the sword panel. But it's really kind of touching on like imperialism and propaganda and how all of that can shape reality. But then it is hopeful. Like I don't want to give away the book, but it's like a good one to read if you're like, oh, there are a lot of these really big systems that feel out of my control. And I'm just like a little pawn in this like larger, I don't know, whatever people are doing. that's a really good book if you want to read and like feel like, okay, well, maybe we can find our own path through. Yeah.
So I do want to like caveat some of these that the books that I find hopeful may not be what everybody else finds hopeful, because I really like books that are dark for a lot of the time, and you're seeing these characters struggle and then they triumph in the end. If you just want some cozy reads, I think we have some of these in here too.
Yeah, we do have a category for that, but don't worry. If you're like, I don't want the dark, we'll get to those.
But as far as like processing these big, impossible feeling things, I do think Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson is one of those big ones. If you have the reading stamina for them, they're definitely worth it.
But I haven't read those. Is Mistborn part of that, or is that separate?
That's separate. So Stormlight Archives starts with The Way of Kings. They're
Yep.
chunky, but they're excellent. And Kaladin in particular, is a character that really exemplifies this topic, I think, because he has gone through the ringer, and you watch him continue to go through the ringer for a really long time, and he has a really dark night of the soul in the first book, and watching him through the power of, you know, friendship and found family and all of those things we love so much come out of that, I think is really powerful. And the fact that he is still able to continue on despite all of these things, I find incredibly hopeful.
Mm-hmm. With that one, because that's a series, right?
Yes.
Would you say you have to read the whole series to have that feeling, or
no?
Okay.
I think each of his like Stormlight Archive, those novels are actually like 3 novels in one. So each one does have, and they kind of focus on a different character each time. Each one has its own completed arc, and then it's like stuff that sort of carries through the rest. So there are many light and dark moments throughout. But if any of you have read it, just the Bridge 4 scene at the end of the first book is just gets me every time.
Oh, I haven't read it. I'm reading Mistborn in December because it's on the book club list, and I'm like, should we have done that instead?
I think it's maybe too much for a book club.
Oh, okay, because it's long.
Yeah, it's a lot. Okay. But kind of in the same vein as those, I don't usually read like classic fantasy. Something about that like omniscient point of view just like really doesn't vibe with my brain.
Yeah.
But I recently read The Fiona of Our Tapestry by Guy Gabriel Kay, and it was probably one of it's very Tolkien-esque, but one of like the best fantasies that I've read. Just with how much it emotionally impacts you, and you're dealing with a lot of like heavy things like, you know, death of friends and loved ones, and there's some mind your trigger warnings for those books for sure. Lots of war and cycles that feel impossible to break. And it's these 5 characters from Earth get taken to Fiona Bar, this magical place, and they go through a heck of a lot during that time.
Like they're kidnapped, or
so they're like college students, and a wizard and a dwarf show up at their lecture series, and they're like, you're important for the things that are coming, come with us. And so that bit's a little like, okay, but once you get past that, they're really, really good. And there's, you know, some kind of dense lore dumps in there, but the prose is beautiful and the stories are beautiful. But yeah, definitely go into that one knowing that things are going to get a little dark before the dawn.
I feel like that's the case with a lot of epic fantasy. Yeah, where it's very intense. Because one that I had, which we were actually speaking about earlier, is The Inheritance Cycle, which is Aragon and all of those books. And I think that's, I mean, also very Tolkien-esque.
Yeah.
And also apparently Star Wars, which I did not realize it was so much like Star Wars. But that I have been told that. But I like those books because it's a similar, I guess not the same in that they are not taken from Earth to another world. But yeah, they have, you know, it's 4 books and there are the epic battles, and it is very similar to Lord of the Rings. Yeah, but I really like those books. I just re-listened to the audiobooks, and I definitely felt that kind of hope reading them again.
I had actually never read Aragon, which I...
Wait, you haven't?
No, I know it's like a mark against me as a fantasy writer, but somehow I missed them in the I don't know. I should go.
I haven't read any Brandon Sanderson beside Trust of the Emerald Sea, so
that's probably a good bridge into the cozier side of things.
yeah, we did. So yeah, we have a number of books that are good for if you're in the mood for yeah, that one was the one we had next. So if you're in the mood for something that's like comforting, you just want to like escape reality and not feel like you have to go to war to do that, to feel hope. Trust of the Emerald Sea. Have you read that one?
I have, yeah. I really like that.
Yeah.
The way that he narrates that book, I feel like it's much lighter than any of his other stuff. And that book, I think, has that sense of wonder that you want in like more cozy, kind of light-hearted fantasy.
I heard that it was it was inspired by The Princess Bride, I think, something like that. Yeah, or it was like, I mean, I don't know the plot and stuff, but because it kind of has that like feel, like it's a little jokey, and
I could see that. I think because the narrator is a character like from his other books, so I could see that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's one. One of my, I don't know if I would call it a comfort read, but something that I like for like escapism, because I'm a big low fantasy reader. So V.E. Schwab is one of my favorite authors. But The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is one that I've seen some nods. That one is fun because I just feel like I read it a couple times, and every time I finish it, I'm just like, I just cry, and like in the best way, like, oh, it's like I'm human, and like we get to like experience all these things, and like I like have connections and know people, and I won't give any spoilers, but I love that book. I think that one's great.
The way that she talks about like art and legacy in that, I read that at a point where I was about to give up writing. Like I was just so done with the trad publishing stuff, and I read that and I was like, no, like I can do this.
Yeah.
And there is beauty and purpose in just doing this, even if nobody ever sees it. And then I decided to self-publish. It's a whole other thing.
And now we can all see it.
Yes.
That's so funny because when I read Addie LaRue when it came out, that's when I was like, oh, it's time. It's time for me to like be serious about writing. So yeah, I wonder how many people have that experience. That's so interesting. I love that. Do you have any comfort reads?
Yeah, I think YA can be pretty good for this. I have Graceling and Fire by Kristen Kishore, which are like, I have kept those books since I was a teenager and read them. They have a like pride of place on my shelf. I think any of those stories where it's like one person who's like a little bit strange, definitely resonate with me, and watching them move through the world and triumph over things. I just love her writing too. I haven't read them as an adult. I don't know. I'm sure they still stand up. But
I'm trying to remember what they were about exactly. Is that where they had like a special gift? They had a special power? Hers was fighting?
So hers was survival. I don't think
okay. Is that a spoiler?
For so long. Sorry. But she didn't know what her grace was for a long time. She thought that her grace was killing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And it was only through going through this like very difficult series of events. I wish I had I don't know why I remember this so specifically, but she's like, okay, I can tell myself to nap for exactly 15 minutes because my body needs rest, and if I don't do it, I'm going to die. But if I keep like if I rest for too long, I will also die. So she's like 15 minutes, and she woke up at exactly 15 minutes later and was ready to go. And I was like, dang, I wish.
Oh my God. That. I don't remember. I remember loving those books because Bitter Blue is the third one, I think. Yeah.
I have not read.
Yeah, that one was good. They're good. If anyone hasn't read them.
Kristen Kishore's.
Yeah, I definitely finished those ones like very inspired after reading those.
Yeah. And I think Circe was another one of those like kind of woman on her own going through a lot of difficult trials, but eventually like finding her path toward the light. I think maybe literally at the end of that one, if I remember correctly. But
yeah, I love Circe. Circe is actually on our book club list for this year if anyone wants to join the book club. But yeah, I feel like I loved it because it gave, a different perspective on the witch from the Odyssey. And it was really just beautiful. That
Mhm.
story was so, it was so good. And I mean, she's immortal, so much happens.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love that one.
Yeah, and I do not have kids, but I remember reading her portrayal of motherhood and being like,
Yeah.
wow, like
Yeah.
it's not just the like kind of rose-colored glasses view of it. Like you get into the real like difficult stuff, and I thought that was really cool to show that side of things. I don't think I'd ever read a fantasy book that got into motherhood like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, I really love Cersei. It's one of my favorite books. Another book that I have been recommending to everyone for a like comfort read, I think it's technically cozy, is Green Teeth by Molly O'Neill, which is, we have a podcast episode on it, just plug. We actually got to interview the author and like talk to her about the book, but it's really fun. It's very short. I think it's just over 200 pages maybe, but it's like I was like, how do I describe it without spoiling it? Because there is a very big twist at the end. So I'm like, I can't say anything about it, which is why you would read it. But I keep my like pitch is like, it's like Shrek, but like in like the 1400s. Like it's like got kind of the like quest feel. Have you read it?
It's on my shelf actually because of your podcast.
It's
I haven't read it.
Oh my gosh, it was I keep telling everyone to read it. But yeah, it's like it's got a quest and it's got magic and you know, kind of like fun sidekicks like the way that Shrek does. Also magic. I don't want to give too much away because again, it's so good. But yeah, if you're like, I just want to go on an adventure and also be kind of in the UK and Scotland and just have like nice scenery and magic, that's definitely
That sounds great.
a big book. Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Okay, and then I had one more. Well, do you want to? I haven't read The River of Silver, which you had.
Oh, yeah. So if has anybody here read the Devabad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty, City of Brass?
Yeah.
No, okay. They are excellent epic fantasies that I highly, highly recommend. I would never call them cozy. Definitely got the like big, high stake epic vibe. But she has a collection of like short stories and chapters that didn't fit into the books that are, I think, for the most part, like really sweet and chill, which is probably why they didn't fit into the book. And I believe there's an alternative ending or like a like after the ending of the book kind of thing, which just gets to show these characters like living their lives in this beautiful world of like genies and magic and yeah, I really, really beautiful prose as well. But read the books first because I don't think you'd enjoy the random excerpts without that.
Yeah, I want to read that because I love The Adventures of Minos Rafi, which is not. I'm like, would I say that's hopeful? It's a good book. I don't know that I would classify it as hopeful.
It's
kind
fun.
of. It's fun. It's a good adventure.
Yeah, yeah.
It is dark though. It
I
has
just
some
don't remember
darker
how it
parts.
ends. I know there's
There's another one coming.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're being sidetracked. There's so many good books. The one that I wanted to mention because I read this book as an adult. I think it's technically a children's book, but is The Last Unicorn by Peter S. Beagle. If anyone's read that, that one was like, have you read that?
I think maybe as a kid, but
okay.
I don't remember.
I discovered it like 7 years ago. So, but it's about a unicorn, and it follows the life of the unicorn, and it was just really beautiful. And that was one that I finished and was just like, man, I just feel so good.
Moving slightly away from cozy, although some of these are borderline cozy. We talked earlier about fantasy being like a way to look, like a lens to look at real world problems. So we have some books that fall into this. Some of them are indie, and I really want to highlight those. But do you want to start with yours at the top?
Sure. Yeah. So one that I like thinking about real world problems, one book that really stood out to me is Under the Whispering Door by T.J. Klune, which is a really good book if you, because it's dealing with like grief and also life and death. And have you read it?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. It's like dealing with these really heavy topics. But it's cozy.
Yeah,
it's like
set in a tea house.
Yeah.
Like between life and death.
Yeah.
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 beautiful story.
It's really good. Yeah, I really liked that one. Also, The Humans by Matt Haig, which I think is technically sci-fi, but it felt like fantasy, so I'm including it on this list. And it's about that. I don't know if I can't remember if you read that one. I love that book. It might have been his first novel, but it's about an alien who comes and takes over the life of a math professor, and essentially the book is the alien just being like, why do humans do this? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Why do we do math?
Well, not math specifically. Math was the one thing the alien approved of.
Oh, dang.
So yeah, I guess that part maybe is unrealistic. No, but it's good, and I loved that book. It was so good. And then Matt Haig, the author, later like shared about his journey. I think he has Asperger's or something like that, and then like writing the book helped him to realize that like it showed like how he felt as like an outsider and like didn't really understand how I mean, I don't want to share his story for him, but it's definitely worth like going and looking that up, and the book is really, really good as well.
Yeah, little bit kind of darker themes. I've only read The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke, but I know that that's part of a trilogy. And the whole the 5th season is the first one, and I can't remember the series name.
Oh, what is the name of the series?
I think it's Broken Earth.
Yeah.
By N.K. Jemisin. Both of those have to deal with like colonialism and systemic oppression. But 5th season in particular is like one of the books that I think made me as an author. Just the craft of that book is so interesting. It's written from 3 different point of views, like first, second, and third person, and the way that she weaves them together to tell this story is absolutely masterful. But yeah, it's about these people who have like seismic powers, and they are ostracized and hunted because I can't remember if their magic like responds to emotions or something, but it can be volatile if they're not trained properly. So they're either hunted down and sent to government-run schools to train them, or they are just hunted down. So it is very dark, but also very poignant, and just a beautifully written story.
Yeah, I haven't. 5th season is on our book club list for this year. If anyone wants to join the book club, I haven't read it, but I think is it more like science-based magic? I feel like I had read a summary that said that, but I haven't read it yet.
It is sort of magic meets technology.
Okay.
But it definitely feels very fantasy still. I wouldn't classify it as sci-fi.
In my mind, kind of like how I think like Brandon Sanderson novels, like the hard magic versus the soft magic kind of thing. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about your book?
Sure. So
Oblivion's
Hymn.
Oblivion's
Hymn. This is my book. It is an epic fantasy. Surprise, surprise. So I pitched this book in kind of a lighthearted, jokey way, as sort of like millennial crisis epic fantasy, because it's about these women who are like in their mid-30s who have made a lot of questionable life choices, and they're trying to dig themselves out and make more questionable life choices along the way. But, you know, among all of the magic and airships and the gods that are very deeply involved in the story, it's really a story about feeling stuck or feeling like you're behind in life. So this was the story I wrote after reading Addie LaRue, and kind of looking at my publishing journey up to that point, which had been 6 years of rejection, and going, this is not where I thought I would be. How many more years can I do this with, you know, nothing to show for it? Not a waste of time, by the way, but, you know, it was in a dark place at the time. So all of that got poured into this book. And it's these 2 women who were childhood friends, and then they kind of went their separate ways to pursue their own goals, and have reunited after everything's gone to shit. And it's kind of a platonic love story between the two of them. Their friendship is really what allows them to grow and move past these things, which is a reflection of like how I was able to move out of that kind of dark place. And that sort of like found family thing is probably it's the best trope. I don't, you can tell me.
I agree. Yeah.
But that's very prevalent in there as well. So I'm hoping that if there's anybody else out there that feels stuck or feels behind, that reading this can kind of help you see that there is hope, and just because one path might end doesn't mean you can't find another one. Or if you haven't found your path yet and you're, approaching 30, that's okay too. There's still plenty of time for you to find your way.
I love that. Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I mean, I was already going through, but now I like really want to read it, which I already did, because I was reading about it, and it seemed like there are gods who play a big role in this as well, which I love. I love any book where like the gods are like, getting involved in things.
Yeah, so I can spoil a little bit for you. So the series name is Divine Songs, and it's all of the books will be a name of the god and like a music word. So Oblivion is one of the gods.
Oh, and his or her are there.
He.
Okay.
Yeah, he's kind of nasty. You find that out very quickly. But another one is Exodus. So he's the god of journeys, and he's very much wrapped up in this whole journey that the two ladies are going on. So
I love that.
Yeah. I love when gods are deeply involved in stories. I just think it's so fun to play with these like super powerful, super long-lived guys who are also just kind of messed up in the head, like more so than human characters are. So yeah, there's all sorts of fun things in there like that.
Yeah. I love that. It makes me think another, I guess, like small press published book that I read recently is The Web of Time by Flavia Bernetti. She's actually Italian. She recently did an episode of the podcast with me, but her book has gods as well that's set in our world, because yours is set
very much
in a
high
different
fantasy.
world.
Not inspired by our world at all.
So that's another good one if you like gods. And in Italy, because there's a lot in Italy. So it's like, I was like, man, I just want to book a flight. The Web of Time.
I check that out.
They're actually doing a re-release of it now, or the ebook's coming. I don't remember exactly, but I love God books. And then I'm like, what else do we have on our list?
Yeah, I want to plug a couple of indie books. So Priestess by Kara Reynolds. If you're looking for some healing from religious trauma, that is an excellent book to read.
That's so specific, and I feel like very good.
Yeah, so it's one point of view romantic fantasy, and you kind of get into the plot really quick, so I'll spoil a little bit. But her village is attacked, and she and these women go and hide in a church, and they disguise themselves as religious people in order to not be killed in this attack. So they get taken to a new place that is ironically much more free than their original place was, and so it's got kind of like Outlander vibes, where like you start to learn about how to live in a place that's not your own, and they get to heal from all of the horrible things that happened, and you learn about some of those horrible things too.
Is that high fantasy, or is that?
It's high fantasy, but it's there's not a ton of magic in it. It's very much like there are gods out there. They're kind of nature-y gods. And you don't, Edie is the name of the main character, and she's kind of got like practical magic vibes. Like she's very good at getting things done and being cunning and witty and like soft and warm when she needs to. And a little bit of magic comes in at the end. So I'd call it pretty accessible fantasy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other one I want to plug is called Darker Than the Starless Night by Rebecca Broadkey, which deals with, that one's high fantasy, epic fantasy. the main character makes drugs for a gang in the city that she's in, which is run by a very powerful dude. So just kind of dealing with her addiction and the beginnings of war that are going on across this continent. And she goes on this big journey to try to find her childhood friend who she thought was gone. And there's a lot about like she's kind of owned by her gang leader. So it deals with that and like his control over her and all this stuff.
Oh, that sounds really good.
It's it is dark.
It sounds. I'm like, wait, I thought we were talking about hope, and you're like, so the gang owner owns her, and there's drugs.
So this is why I put that caveat way back at the beginning, right? Because
like, we'll go through the darkness.
Yeah,
to get to the light.
There's this. I wish I had looked up the definition of this beforehand, but there's a thing called the deep zoo, like a psychological term, and I think it's essentially like the things that live rent free in your head. And one of those things is like the small person against the big impossible thing, and that is the feeling I get when I read those books, and being able to beat out that big impossible thing. So yeah, definitely check your trigger warnings though before you read that one, but it is excellently written.
Wait, was that high fantasy as well? Okay. Yeah, all of those sound so good. So the last category we had is aspirational worlds, which was interesting because when we were talking about this, we were like, would we aspire to any of the fantasy worlds that we have read?
So I think this is interesting because it doesn't have to be the world in its entirety.
So that's the other caveat. There are many utopias.
Yeah. I mean, you can't have a story without conflict, unfortunately. But there are books out there that exist with queer normative worlds or worlds that are not plagued by patriarchy or colonialism or one or multiple of these things. And it's really nice to be able to see what it would look like. Even something as small as like non-binary characters don't have to explain their pronouns, or like lines of succession in noble families don't always go to the firstborn man, or they don't even have to be hereditary, actually. Like the way that these things, if we just imagined what a world could look like without these things that we have always assumed to be normal.
Yeah.
I only have a couple of examples of those, but
this one was very hard. So if you have any recommendations, please tell us that.
Yeah. The ones that I have written down are These Vengeful Gods. So both of these are YA actually, but so that is queer normative. Many of the gods are non-binary and trans, which was really cool to see. And I feel like if you have your main religious figure is they them, like you kind of have. It's pretty implied that this is normal. And then the Sunbearer Trials by Aidan Thomas is kind of similar, and that one goes a little bit more into like how those things are celebrated in that world, which I thought was really cool. Like the characters have like kind of coming out like parties when they like reaffirm their genders. Also has like, I think the actual like main sun god in that book is non-binary, and the main character is trans. So I'm hoping that we get to see more adult books with this kind of stuff, because it's obviously important for teenagers to get exposure to this stuff, but it's nice for adults to have that too. Boo to traditional publishing for stepping away from queer stories.
The only one that I had, and I was like, are there? I mean, I also don't read a lot of high fantasy. So like for the low fantasy, then it's like, well, I want kind of almost all of them to be real. Maybe not the vampire books, because I'm very scared of vampires, but like which of them? Like, yes, we should all have magical powers.
Yes.
So the one that I had is a portal fantasy. So it starts out in our world, but it's In Other Lands by Sarah Reese Brennan, which is young adult. And I really like that one because it kind of like what you were saying, like, especially young adult, like it's very much a coming of age story. And the character goes to this other world. They like cross a I think like a brick fence or something. Anyway, that detail doesn't matter. But they go and all of the characters were very accepting, and one of the characters literally just like grows wings or something. And I thought it was a really good metaphor for like, the changes your body's going through when you're like a teenager, and like everyone just like processing that and accepting it and having the magical elements and stuff too. So
Yeah.
I really like that book because I haven't seen it a lot of places, but
I hadn't heard of it.
yeah, I just stumbled upon it, I think at the library.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
great.
I did write the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers, which is sci-fi, but I think honestly sci-fi might have more room for this kind of thing than fantasy, because it is like the future of our world and the things that we like our hope will happen. But I love the like diversity of like races and cultures and gender representation that she has in all of those books is wonderful.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you just when you said that, there was a short story I read, I think last year, that was sci-fi, and it was about this world I would maybe be okay with. So this was our world, and the coral in the ocean basically starts killing all of the billionaires.
Specifically the billionaires.
Yes. That's how it starts out. I think the first line is "the richest man in the world is dead" or something like that. And I think I have it saved somewhere. I'll have to link to it. But it was good, and it was like I was like, okay, like basically nature like starts fighting back, and
Keeping up with the orcas that are like attacking.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that is like a trend, like environmental like stories, which I don't know if it's necessarily in the fantasy space. I think that is becoming more popular. So maybe we'll see more of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, maybe it's more sci-fi versus fantasy, which could be good. So yeah, we like talked through our whole list here.
We did it.
Yeah. Do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah. Events of the last couple of weeks have been pretty heavy. The last couple of months, years. And I think anybody who says that fantasy is fluff and you should be reading more serious stuff now is wrong, and you should tell them so. Because so many of these stories are wrapped around resistance and triumph. There's magic in it, so obviously it's not a one-to-one blueprint of how we can survive times like these, but I do think it provides bravery and a sense of community, and we do get to see like these stories don't exist in a vacuum. Like the way that people survive in these stories draws inspiration from how people have survived these things in real life. And so I think it's important to, one, read what you like, but two, like look at these stories and draw hope and inspiration from the fact that there is a way out of this, and it is together at stuff like this.
Yeah, I think that's so well said. You made me think of, I was watching like a panel on Brandon Sanderson, and he was like, I wanted to write a book where like, what if Sauron like got the ring, and like the bad guy actually ruled for like 1,000 years. And I think that, and like what would happen? But I think that a lot of these stories on this list kind of explore that of like, well, what happens when things get dark and how can we get through that? And yeah, it gives me hope to see other people or other creatures doing that as well. Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you everyone for listening. Yay. Thank you.